Algebra 1 students, welcome back. Here's lesson 2-3, solving multi-step equations. To solve multi-step equations, you form a series of simpler equivalent equations. To do this, use the properties of equality, inverse operations, and also the properties of real numbers. You'll use those properties until the variable is isolated. In other words, variable has to be alone. Now here's some processes you need to be aware of as you do this. One of them is combining like terms. When I have an expression like 4x plus 3 minus 7x, I see the 4x and the 7x can be combined into a single minus 3x. The distributive property is another one you guys are familiar with, where you take the 4 and you distribute, or in other words, multiply by both terms that you see. Next, working with fractions and decimals. You need to be comfortable doing this, and again, as I've said, the first half of this chapter there will be no calculator use, so this needs to be something you either do mentally or you can write it out. Now we can't do 8 minus 9, so if you remember back to your elementary school lessons, they taught you borrow, so change that 4 to a 3 and put that extra 1 over there, so 18 minus 9 is 9. Your decimal drops straight down. 3 minus 2 is 1. And also, everyone's favorite, working with fractions. 1/2 minus 3/4. Before we can subtract or add fractions, we need to have what's called a common denominator. In this case, I've got a 2 and a 4. The smallest number that both 2 and 4 will evenly go into is, of course, 4. So I'm going to take that 1/2 and multiply it by 2 over 2. We're still subtracting 3/4. And I'll rewrite that 1/2 then as 2/4 minus 3/4, which then would be negative 1/4. Okay, so those are just some reminders, nothing new there. All right, so here we go. Example 1, 8 minus q equals 16. The first thing I notice is I have a minus q and a minus q. Let's combine those into one term. 8 minus 2q equals 16. From here, you can just follow your steps for problem solving, which is essentially just the reverse order of operations. So I need to subtract 8 from both sides. And I'll rewrite it up here. Negative 2q equals 8. Then you can divide both sides by negative 2. And q then is negative 4. Alright, why don't you pause the video and work through number 2 on your own. Okay, welcome back. Here's number 2. First thing I noticed were that 3y and 10y had a common term, so we'll do 15 equals 3y minus 10y is negative 7y, and we still have a minus 6. Now we can start going through solving our equation. We'll add 6 to both sides using our addition property of equality. And then we can divide both sides of the equation by negative 7. And we find that y has a value of negative 3. Okay, number 3, a family buys airline tickets online. Each ticket costs $167. The family buys travel insurance with each ticket that costs $19 per ticket. The website charges a fee of $16 for the entire purchase. The family is charged a total of $1,132. How many tickets did they buy? Okay, lots of things to digest here, but the first thing we need to find out is what's our variable? In other words, what are we trying to find? Well, we're trying to find the number of tickets. this family is buying airline tickets. It says they cost $167 each. So to write my equation, I can just say 167x. Now let's look at other fees here. Insurance is $19 and it's again per ticket. So we've got to do 19x. And there's one more fee, a one-time $16 fee on the purchase. And we know that they spent $1,132. All right, let's solve the equation. Combining like terms would be our first step. 167x plus 19x is going to give us 186x plus 16 equals 1,132. We'll subtract 16 from each side. And I'm going to write the results up here. 186x equals 1,116. And then we divide by 186. Now, I know I've told you in this chapter we're not going to use calculators. I promise you that I will not give you any division problems quite this complicated, but I can tell you that this one is, in fact, 6. Okay, so there are 6 tickets that this family is purchasing. All right, moving on, a little bit of problem solving using some of the different things that we've looked at. Number 4, let's use the distributive property first. 5 times 2x and 5 times negative 3. So we'll have 10x minus 15 equals 15. Our problem solving then, first step is we need to add 15 to each side. That gives us 10x equal to 30, and then we can divide both sides of the equation by 10, and we'll have our solution of x equal to 3. Again, why don't you pause, do number 5. When you've finished solving it, hit play again, and I'll walk through it with you. Okay, the first step on number 5 is again using the distributive property. This time the 5 is going to be multiplied by both n and negative 1. At this point, we can combine our like terms. You can see over here we have an n and a 5n. They can definitely be combined. So we'll have 6n minus 5 equals 7. Let's add 5 to each side. That gives us 6n equal to 12. And then we can divide both sides of the equation by 6. And we have our solution of 2. All right, one more page for us. Let's take a look at example 6. Now this time I was nice enough to provide you with fractions, everyone's favorite, I know. One thing we can do when you have fractions on, multiple fractions I should say, whether they're on one side of the equation or both sides, is you can actually get rid of them. If you look at the least common multiple, now this one's a pretty simple one because the denominators here are 6 and 6 and 6. So really all I need to do is multiply both sides of the equation by 6. And I have a very simple 2z plus 3z equals 25 to solve. So by multiplying by 6, I got rid of all the denominators in one step. So we'll have 5z equals 25 after we combine our like terms. Quick division problem, z then equals 5. Okay, on number 7, it's similar to 6, but our denominators are not quite as friendly because we have different denominators to choose from. Now you'll notice on the left we have a 5 and a 10, and then on the right we have a 5. So again, we will use the least common multiple, which in this case is 10. 5 and 10 both go evenly into 10. So we'll multiply both sides of the equation by 10. Now I'm going to go ahead and write this one out. Sorry about that. Get that fixed. There we go. 10r over 5 minus 30r over 10 equals 10 fifths. Now all I've done is just multiply the numerators in all three terms by 10. Now we'll simplify and we'll have only integer values. 2r, that's 10 divided by 5. 30 divided by 10, of course, is 3, so I have minus 3r. And again, we have 10 divided by 5. That's 2. Common terms, 2r and 3r. We could simplify those. We'll end up with negative r equals 2. And as we've seen before, when you have a negative a negative variable, you need to go ahead and divide both sides by negative 1, and we'll have r equals negative 2. All right, last problem coming up here. We have a parallelogram in this case. Now, in order to solve this problem, one thing you need to be aware of are some properties. One of them is mentioned here, that the interior angles have a sum of 360 degrees. That's important for us. But there's another one we need to know, and that is that the opposite angles are congruent or the same. So this angle up here is 2x plus 4 degrees, and this angle down here is 6x degrees. So what I can do then is just simply do 6x plus 2x plus 4 plus 6x plus 2x plus 4 equals 360. So I'm taking all four angles, adding them together, setting it equal to 360. And now I'm going to do some combining of like terms. 6x plus 2x plus 6x plus 2x. That's going to give me 16x. Here I have 4 plus 4. That's 8 equals 360. We need to subtract 8 from both sides. So 16x then would equal 352. And we're going to need to divide by 16. Now, I actually think this one would be fair for me to put on a quiz or a test. We're going to do some long division here. 352 divided by 16. We look at this and say, okay, 16 cannot go into 3. 16 can go twice into 35. So I need to subtract 16 times 2, which would be 32. That leaves me a 3, and that 2 just comes straight down, 32. 16 goes twice into 32, and we do not have any remainder. That tells me then that the solution is 22. All right, there's your lesson for this evening, 2-3. Again, make sure that you answer the questions from the link below. Have a great Monday.